manager at Catholic Charities. I am mainly the liaison between external organizations, also internally, but within requesting Know Your Rights presentations and just having resources and materials that you guys can use to address your clients, your students, whatever you guys may need, especially if like you're a case manager or you have a class of students maybe that is directly impacted by the current immigration policies. I'm here to kind of be that liaison for you guys and let you know what is available to you guys, as well as what resources are the best and the most credible to be using across all the many resources we have amongst New York City and upstate New York. So I work across New York City and upstate New York. I mainly sit out of the 80 Maiden Lane office at Catholic Charities, which is in the financial district, but I kind of like my reach extends all across New York, as well as most of you guys might know. So just wanted to preface that entire conversation by saying that. The other thing is I'm going to give this presentation. This presentation should be around 30 to 40 minutes. It's pretty comprehensive. It's pretty simple because this is something that we kind of adopted to speak to crowds that maybe don't have that language level that is pretty comprehensive to deal with the like legal jargon that comes along with dealing with Know Your Rights. So guys might be like, oh, this is very, very simple to understand. And that's primarily because that's how we made it. It's up at about a third grade reading level in terms of the presentation. So just want you guys to keep that in mind when you're paying attention. I'm going to give the presentation as if I'm talking to people who are directly impacted. And if that's one of you guys, that's great. If it's more of you doing a train the trainer, relaying this information to your clients, to your students, that's also great. So I'll try to address it in that manner as well. But a big thing also is that these types of presentations can be given out directly to your students or your clients. You could just reach out to me and we can organize something, whether that be in person, whether that be via Zoom. I accommodate both. I will say we mainly see this happening mainly over Zoom because people are a little bit scared to come out to Know Your Rights presentations in particular due to the current political state of everything that's going on. So I would also keep that in mind. But with that all being said, after the presentation, I'm going to share with Paula all of the resources that I have for you guys, as well as the link to request presentations directly for your organizations. So you guys can fill that out. I'll get back to you and we'll schedule out some time so that you guys can maybe bring this directly to your students or your clients. But with that being said, I am going to get started. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, present. Okay, just one second. All right. So here we go. Know your rights. So important to understand that I am not an attorney as well. So another good thing to preface. This is not legal advice. It's more so just information all consolidated into one deck so that we're able to understand what's the truth, what's not the truth. And it's very important to understand that rules about immigration can change at any time. So if somebody needs help directly with their immigration case, they should speak to an attorney or someone who knows the law in particular so that they can kind of delve into exactly what their case specific information is. Today, we're going to go over some general information, so just keep that in mind. So what is Catholic Charities Community Services? It is a very large nonprofit, which I'm sure many of you guys have heard of, that is based out of New York. We help people with many different things, like helping with immigration papers, support for kids who came here without their parents, a place to live and get settled, classes to learn English, help for people who do jobs like construction or yard work. We call those the day laborers. We have a day laborer program. And we also have phone lines that we can call to assist with specific immigration questions, which I'll have at the end of the slide deck with resources. The purpose of this presentation is to know that we all have rights, and it's important to know what those rights are, no matter what our immigration status is. We want to learn what those rights are. We want to get ready in case you are speaking to a police officer, or your students or your clients are speaking to a police officer. You want to understand the rules about immigration. Remember, everyone has rights, no matter where they're from, no matter what their immigration status is. We want to keep ourselves, our families safe, our clients safe, our students safe, and we want to be ready in case something scary happens or unexpected happens. We want to make sure that we have a safety plan in check to make sure that we are prepared and our family is prepared. So what's the agenda? We're going to go over what is ICE, know your rights, make a plan, and resources. First, we're going to cover what is ICE. So ICE Basic information that we need to know about ICE. It's basically a government group that checks if people are following the immigration rules. We like to say that they are the immigration police. So they are people who can enforce any type of immigration policy here in the United States. What do they do? So they look for people who may not have the right papers to be in the United States. They can place somebody in a detention center, and they can also send people back to their home country if they think that they broke the rules. So if somebody, for example, has overstayed their visa, that would mean that they're here illegally, and an ICE officer has the authority to detain them and place them in a detention center and therefore put them in proceedings to send them back home and deport them. So they are the people that can enforce all of those types of laws. How can we identify ICE? So it's really difficult to identify ICE sometimes because either we see that they're walking around the city wearing masks, or they could be dressed in plain clothing. So they could be dressed just typically how we may dress, like going to work, or they can be dressed as police officers. So there's a lot of things that can be a deterrent to understanding whether or not you're speaking to an ICE officer. The biggest thing is understanding your conversation with them. So they may say that they're local police, even though they're not, but what they're definitely going to do is ask questions about your immigration status. The moment somebody is asking you questions about an immigration status, it's probably a clear indicator you're speaking with an ICE officer, especially during this political climate. They also may use different tactics to try to scare you or trick you into letting you into your home. A big thing we're going to go over in a few slides is what that process looks like if a ICE officer is at the door and what should we do. But they are allowed technically under executive order to trick people into entering homes, into tricking them into giving them more information than they actually are allowed to receive without a warrant. So, what's the difference between ICE and local police? So, ICE is part of the federal government. So, they're going to have a different way of walking around, a different way of asking questions, and they're often not going to identify themselves as immigration enforcement. While an NYPD officer or somebody part of, like, let's say the Austin Police Department may actually say that they're part of the police department. They don't really have much to hide there, while a ICE officer will tend to do that. And like I said before, they're going to be asking questions to obtain information about an immigration status. So that's our clear indicator. A local police officer should not be asking you questions about your immigration status. They should be asking you questions about a law that maybe you have broken in that moment. So, for example, you're driving a car, you're driving over the speed limit. They should only be asking you questions pertaining to that specific scenario. No question should be asked whether you are a lawful permanent resident, what is your immigration status, nothing like that. They also will typically be walking around with their business and ID cards that have a police logo, while an ICE officer is not going to openly share that information out. So it's kind of more of like a vibe that you're feeling when you're speaking to them, but also paying attention to the type of questions that they are asking you in a situation. These are example of ICE badges and vehicles. You guys can feel free to take a picture of this, screenshot the slide, just so you guys have it. But a badge is just important to know what it looks like in case we're verifying ID. Like if we're speaking to a ICE officer and we want to make sure that we know we're speaking to a ICE officer, we can ask them to show us their badges. And it's important to know what a valid badge looks like. Two of these are animated badges, but they will look like this. This is the logo that's on the website. And then the special agent badge that's like outlined in leather, that one also is usually the one that they're going to be carrying around. Vehicles, they tend to look like this. Sometimes they're green, but those typically happen more towards Texas. We typically in New York see the blue vehicles that have like the blue stripes on it, Immigration Federal Protective Services on it. So if you see these in the area, it's really important to know and notify, maybe your students, notify your clients, notify your family, just so that people know that they're in that area. And we want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in danger if we know that ICE is performing these enforcement activities within a specific area. So we are going to go into protected and sensitive locations. So like I said, immigration policy changes a lot. So a lot of things change, especially when the new president came into office. On January 2025, he took away something called sensitive locations. Sensitive locations were places like churches, schools, hospitals, and those were usually safe from immigration enforcement. They were kind of a safe haven for people in the case that something was happening. Of course, kids at school, we don't want ICE officers barging on the door trying to detain them. People who are sick at a hospital,
Find
people
out
who
what's
are
happening there.
worshiping at a church.
It's some of my students. It's saying what people can do.
Christina, do you mind just muting yourself? Sorry. Um, So, for example, these places were obviously like churches, schools, hospitals. But on January 20, 2025, this is when the president took these sensitive locations away. So, right now, technically, agents are allowed to use common sense to enter any of these locations if they feel that they need to enter them. So, technically, they're able to enter churches, schools, hospitals as if it is a normal space. It's also very important to understand public spaces, private spaces. Your public spaces tend to be parks, stores, walking on the sidewalk, if you're in the subway, things like that. Now, private place is our home. Our place of work actually is a private place, which I'll get into in a little bit. Current climate. So obviously we know a lot of different tactics are being used to attack the current immigration world. Importantly, when he first came into office, the government or the president tried to sign an executive order saying that babies born to US in the US from non-citizens are not allowed to receive birthright citizenship, which is something that is a part of the Constitution of the United States. The judges have challenged that in court. It's currently being challenged, and it's not something we need to worry about in particular, especially because it's part of the Constitution of the United States, and you cannot sign an executive order simply to take that away. Also, something else that we know is ICE is now trying to arrest and send away more people, even those who have the permission to be the United States. So even if we see permanent residents, they are also at risk of these enforcement activities, which is really important for us to know that we all must know what is going on, what our rights are in the case that something does happen. So we have something called the registration requirement, which happened on April 11th, 2025. It's something else that is kind of apparent. But this is something that we don't advise yes or no that people should do. It's more so here's the information, and then from there, that person needs to make that decision on their own, or they need to consult with an attorney. So the registration requirement is actually something that hasn't been required for many decades. It's new for us now. It is something where some people in the United States who do not have papers now have to sign up with the government. They need to register with them, and just to let them know where they're located and that they're here, whether they are a permanent resident all the way until undocumented people. It's important to find out if this rule applies for you or someone that you know so that you can make the decision of whether or not it's something that you need to do. So who has to register? If someone is not a US citizen and is 14 or older, they may need to register if they weren't already fingerprinted and if they stay in the United States for more than 30 days. If a child under 14 stays in the United States for more than 30 days, their parent or their guardian must register them. If someone turns 14 while living in the United States, they have 30 days to register. So practically anybody here who has not been fingerprinted and who's staying in the United States for more than 30 days and is not a US citizen who is 14 years or older needs to register with the government. How to register? They need to make an online account with the government or USCIS. There's a specific form called the G325R. They need to get their fingerprints taken, and if you're 18 or older, you need to carry a paper around that shows that you've registered with the government. Now, why some people think registration could help, it shows obviously that you're following the rules. It may help you stay out of trouble later. It can also be a good thing to show if you ask to stay in the United States one day. So if we're applying for a specific relief, for example, if we marry a US citizen and we're applying for that type of relief, it may show that we have good moral conduct moving forward, and could help us with our application. Why some people worry about the registration requirement, we know that we have to give our name and our address, and that could make it easier for immigration officers to find us. And signing up does not mean that you're safer from being told to leave the country. So it's not giving you any type of deportation protection. It's simply just a way to follow the law and let the government know where you are located. Now it's know your rights. So you have rights no matter where you are from, and it's very important to understand that. Everybody has the right to remain silent, and they have the right to ask for an attorney before answering any questions, and they should not sign anything without talking to a lawyer first. They do have the right to consult with an attorney before signing any documents.
I'm sorry, Leslie. I just want to say if anyone has any questions, you can either type it in the chat or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask the questions.
And so we'll move on to where might we find ICE? So ICE can come at any time, even in the early mornings. They may show up at your house, they may show up while you're driving, they could come to your job, they may come on the street. So it's important to always be alert and understand what the rights are when we're in these different situations and scenarios. It's important that we always stay calm and be careful, although we know that this is a situation that produces a lot of anxiety for many people. It's important that we control the situation to the best of our ability, which means if we stay calm, maybe the situation will remain calm within our control. If we start to get aggressive or be rude to an ICE officer, it may be that ICE officer meets you at that level and makes the situation worse than what it needs to be. So always important to remain calm. Important to not open the door if ICE comes to your home, which we'll go over in the next slide. So if law enforcement is at our door, important that we ask who it is, whether it's the police or an ICE officer. Either way, they're going to need a warrant. If they say police, you're going to ask them which department they're from and what their name and badge numbers are so that you're able to have that for your records in case something does happen. If they say they have a warrant, you're going to ask them to slip it under the door, or you're going to ask them to show it through a window that may be next to your door, whichever one is the most feasible in that situation. Um, Once they slip it under the door, they're showing it to you through a window. You're going to review the document. You're going to assess if this is a judicial warrant. If they do not have a judicial warrant, they do not have the right to enter your home. I'm going to show you on the next slide the difference between a judicial and an administrative warrant. But more commonly than not, ICE officers are walking around with administrative warrants and saying that they are judicial warrants, which is not true. So it's important that we understand what the difference are between them, because often they take advantage of those who do not know the information correctly. Important that this entire conversation is happening with the door remain closed, because the minute that we open the door, we're allowing the ICE officer to enter our home. So sample judicial warrant where ICE can enter home. If you take a look at the document here, it is signed by a judge. So that's the main difference here. Your judicial warrant will always be signed by a judge. Now, the administrative warrant where ICE cannot enter your home is signed by an ICE officer. And not only that, it's going to have your A number, a specific date on there, and it's going to be issued by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. A very big distinguishing factor here is that an administrative warrant is going to look a lot like our immigration documents. So most clients or students that are directly affected by this tend to have crossed the border and received something called a notice to appear. This document is going to reflect that same format very, very closely. So a big tip you can give to people is just an administrative warrant is going to look like your immigration documents. It's going to be issued by the same entity, which is the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and it's going to have your A number up at the top. So that is a big difference between the two of them. Also, feel free to take a picture of this if you guys want to have it for your records. It's just important to have that ready to go. So we move on to the next slide. What rights do we have inside our home? ICE can't come inside unless they have that paper signed by the judge, which is the judicial warrant, or someone in the house says it's okay. Opening the door means you're giving them permission. It means you're saying, okay, you can enter my home. So this is why it's important that we tell people that they keep the door closed the entire time that they're having this conversation. No warrant. Then do not open the door, and you also do not have to answer any questions. Do not give them any papers unless a judge says that you have to. Do not give fake or old papers or expired papers. And if they try to come inside, you want to say that I do not consent or I do not agree to you entering my home and searching my home. And similarly, what are our rights when we're at work? ICE cannot enter private spaces without a valid warrant or permission from your employer. If your employer gives them permission to enter, you still do not have to speak to ICE. So you still have the right to remain silent, even if the employer allows ICE to enter your building, and you do not have to answer any questions from ICE at work. So important to understand that. And important that technically your work is a private space, so they have to have that valid judicial warrant to enter. The tricky part where it comes to work is that you are not in control of what the office manager that day may do. If they let them in, we need to make sure that we understand that we still don't have to answer any questions to ICE. What happens if ICE stops us on the street or in our car? So pretty similarly, but some do's. We do want to stay calm and polite. We want to ask for ID to confirm that we're speaking with ICE. We want to exercise our right to remain silent. If we're in our car, individuals, including passengers, have the right to remain silent. Do prepare yourself and your family in the case that you are arrested. It's important to always have a plan set in stone in case something were to happen. Some don'ts. We don't want to run or resist arrest because that could make the situation a lot worse than what it is. Do not speak or answer questions. Do not lie or give false documents. Do not sign any documents. And do not tell them your immigration status or your birthplace. You don't want to confirm any extra information that is not needed in the case that we need to speak to an attorney so that they can advise us what we should say if we are arrested by ICE. Pretty similarly as well, you have the right to remain silent, speak to an attorney, and call your consulate. You do not have to provide any information about your immigration status, place of birth, or criminal record. You have the right to speak to an attorney, and you do not sign any paperwork unless you speak to an attorney first. Often, more than not, I'm hearing stories of people that are detained that are not given their phone calls correctly. So I believe you're supposed to have two phone calls. They're sometimes only given one, maybe none. So it's important that the one call that they're making is either to an emergency contact that knows who their attorney is or can get in contact with the attorney if they don't have one, or that they speak directly to an attorney. Important that they use their phone call appropriately. If that person is not getting assistance in terms of they're not allowed to receive a phone call or send out a phone call or call somebody, they can fill out the person on the outside, the emergency contact that knows that this person has been detained by ICE. There's something called an ICE detainee locator where they can locate what prison they're located at or what detention center they're at, just based off of their A number and information, which we'll go over in safety planning so that the person has all that information for them and they can locate them, then contact an attorney and figure it out that way. So, unfortunately, we can't control what an ICE officer is going to do or what they're going to allow them to do, but it's important to understand our different kind of ways of dealing with this process. We're going to go over make a plan now. So I always say it's important to have a plan in place no matter what status we're at in terms of whether the country is the way that it is right now, where we need to focus on safety planning, or whether we're all living in a very happy world. Like, it doesn't matter. We should all have a plan in place. We should have all of our documents ready and organized no matter what our status is. We should have passports, IDs, marriage, divorce, birth certificates all ready to go with certified translations if the originals are not in English. For example, if my birth certificate is from the Dominican Republic and it is in Spanish, then I should have a certified translation ready to go, just in case I need it. When we're going to court, often the judge is going to ask for this information in Spanish or in English. So we want to make sure we have those translations ready to go. We want attorney contact information, financial records, letters from immigration or past applications. If we've applied for asylum and we have a receipt, we should have all of that information ready to go. Your alien number or your A number, if you have one, is important for you to have it, as well as your emergency contact, and any and all arrest and criminal history documents all ready to go as well, with copies all in a folder. It's super important to have these ready to go. Some safety planning, some best practices to stay safe. So be sure to follow all traffic laws. You want to avoid DUI, speeding, or driving without a license. Be sure to attend all court hearings, criminal and immigration. So Criminal court, of course, always important to attend. But another important thing to know, immigration court hearings, if you do not attend a hearing you have scheduled, you have an automatic deportation order in absentia, which just means that if you did not attend, they're automatically going to give you a deport order for not showing up to your immigration hearing. A lot of people don't want to go because they're scared of the current state of the courts, and maybe there's ICE officers outside, but unfortunately, have a 100% chance that they're giving us a deportation order if we are not showing up to our hearings. So it's very important to advise people to attend their hearings. We want to secure travel documents. We want to keep all passport handy for our family, plan for financial and legal success. We want to prepare powers of attorneys for trusted individuals, especially if we have children. I want to explore immigration options as soon as possible, consulting with an immigration attorney about what we're eligible for, whether that's asylum, SIJs, U visas, T visas, any type of visa that we may be eligible for. We should check other options to make sure that we know, okay, this is what I'm eligible for. Let me at least begin this process to the best of my ability. Safety planning for our children, very important. There's a few different things that can happen. For example, we could do a power of attorney, but something a little bit more simple is called a special form. It's the designation of parental form here. It's called the OCFS 4940. If you look this up, the form is online. It's very simple to fill out. You can specify what type of authority this emergency contact has to take care of your child. For example, you can specify whether or not you want them to be able to take them to the doctor, take them to school, pick up at school, sign school documents, whatever it may be. You can specify. There's like a long list of like things that somebody could check off, and anybody can fill this out. The person doesn't have to pay money or live with the child. It's a little less legally binding than a power of attorney, and the form lasts up to 6 months and can be signed and notarized outside of the United States, which is also a good thing to note, that God forbid somebody doesn't have the time to fill out this form while they're here before something happens. They can also do that from their home country and send it back to the United States, and it's still valid. Also important to write down your child's medicine, health history, and vaccines. You want to pick 2 people at least that you can trust to help with your child and important papers. Make sure your child knows who those caregivers are and how to reach them. It's very important your child isn't aware of this plan, because we don't want them to be like surprised in the case of something happens that this random person is coming to pick them up. It's just important that they know who that person's going to be and how to get in contact with them. And caregivers should know your child's school, doctor, and medicine needs, of course. How can a lawyer help us? Of course, we know that a lawyer can help us with an immigration court. You have the right to have a lawyer, but unfortunately, not similar to criminal court, the government will not pay for the lawyer. You have to find one yourself, and that becomes your burden. So a lawyer can help you with your case and understand the rules, but you are the person that needs to find the attorney and retain the attorney for yourself. If you do have a lawyer, there's a few things important to keep a copy of the signed paper called the G28. G28 is just something you're going to sign that the lawyer is going to submit to court to show that you are represented by somebody. You want to make sure you have a copy of that within all of your documents in that folder with all of your passports, everything. Just keep a copy of that and make sure that your emergency contacts have a copy of that as well, as long as with a name and phone number for your lawyer. Another thing is you're going to sign a representation agreement directly with the attorney once you consult with them and just retain them. It's important to have copies of that. It'll just show that you retain somebody and you have an attorney that's on your side and is representing you. And then important, beware of immigration fraud. Be careful, you shouldn't trust anybody to help with immigration. In particular, Catholic Charities has currently received a lot of notes that some people are impersonating Catholic Charities and saying that they could pay us. They're getting messages on social media saying that we'll pay them and then we'll apply for like their citizenship or whatever it may be. Very important that Catholic Charities is completely pro bono. Our services are completely free no matter what. So if anybody is getting notifications or requests from these random online people, it's not Catholic Charities. We never message anybody through social media. We never ask people to pay us for their case representation. We do everything for free. So that is a clear indicator that they are being scammed by somebody. Another big thing is that within the immigration community or immigrant community, people are often scammed by something called notarios, which are notaries that are often saying that they can apply for their citizenship or apply and get them a green card or apply and get them a work permit. More often than not, this is not the case and this is not true. It's important that we consult with a trusted legal individual. So it's important that always get help from someone you trust, a real legal service. Somebody that's referred is always a great option. If you think somebody was tricked, you should tell somebody. So you can call this number, which is a number that I'll have at the end as well. It's just a hotline number that you can report anonymously in case somebody is being committed fraud against. This number also can give you some trusted legal referral sources so that they can receive maybe an attorney that is a little bit more trusted in the case of representing them. And then to learn more about scams and how to stay safe, there
We lost her. Just give me 1 second. Just gonna give her a few minutes to see if she comes back. Um, Hopefully she will. Let's see. She's joining again. Just give me a minute. She's back. So let's. Hey, Leslie.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I do not know what happened mid-conversation, but anyway, we were almost done anyway, but let me share my screen. I'm just gonna, it's asking me to send a request, Paula, to you to be able to share my screen again, so I just sent that. Okay, perfect. All right, back to where I was, which is basically almost done, but here we go. Okay, so again, beware of immigration fraud. This is the link to kind of know what the current immigration fraud themes are that are happening within the community. A lot of the times, notarios or people who are trying to scam use the same type of scam over and over again. So this is just kind of like a way to kind of have those resources and those materials that we can share out with others. You guys can feel free to take a picture of this slide as well. But on the next slide, I have resources that we can use as well, which are the hotline numbers, which could be of a great resource to many of you guys, especially when sending out referrals, just for people to kind of like reach out to people to know what trusted legal services are going to look like. So finally, resources. these are the two immigration hotlines. We have referrals to free legal help and programs, answer basic immigration questions, report fraud and scam against immigrants, help provided in more than 200 languages. So whether that be French, Haitian Creole, Spanish, whatever it is, they have it. It's confidential, it's anonymous. We have the New York State New Americans Hotline and the New York City Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs Legal Support Hotline. So these two numbers are super trusted resources, great for referrals, great for free legal help and programs. So definitely important to share this out. But that's all I have for you guys. Now I'll open up the floor to any questions that anybody may have. Again, feel free to take a picture of these slides. I can also will be sending to Paula like more information after this about how to request your specific presentations for your client students, as well as these phone numbers. So you guys have them close to you. But thank you for paying attention. Thank you for bearing with me with that little mishap. But open up for questions. So if anybody has a question, just let me know.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you, Leslie. I'm wondering if someone does have an order of deportation, what are the recommendations, like, having a safety plan, or could you like touch a little more on that?
Yeah, so anybody in immigration court has a deport order. So technically that's why it's called removal proceedings, because they have a pending deport order. It's important. Everything I went over in the presentation is really what's consultative for them. It's having obviously an emergency safety plan, consulting with attorney as soon as possible. And another thing is making sure that they're attending their immigration court hearings. While this is all happening, I know it's scarier than more than not in terms of being scared of like if they go to a court hearing, are they going to get picked up by ICE right after? There's a few different things happening now with immigration court that's starting to roll out. We have accompaniment processes, which Catholic Charities doesn't do directly. There's a few other organizations, which I'm not sure of yet. We're kind of like partnering with organizations to see who is doing these programs. But I actually do friend of the court every Monday, which I go to the court and then I like assist people with just like change of address, things like that coming into court. And I've been seeing some organizations funnel through where they're accompany people to the court and accompany them outside the court to make sure that they're getting home safely. So that's an option. And then another thing is the judge that I work with directly. She says that she's accepting motions to make hearings virtual, which is also a great thing. So honestly, practically anybody can fill out a motion for WebEx. We call it, that's really Zoom for the courts. Online, there is probably templates, but we unfortunately don't assist with that directly. But that is something that is very viable and feasible for somebody who's in immigration court. Let's say they have a court next month and they're scared. They can submit a motion for WebEx. The only thing is that the judge said to not put anything about why they're scared about going to court. It's more so just like, I can't get to court because, of financial reasons, access to the subway or whatever it may be. But that way, so that the judge can grant the motion for WebEx and then that person can appear for their hearing virtually is another thing that we work like recommending. Anybody else have any questions? I hope that answers your questions, Jen.
Any questions, anyone? So thank you, Leslie, for taking your time. Thank you, everyone, for attending NYACCE Lunch and Learn today. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you again, Leslie. And I will send an email with the link for the presentation and additional documentation that's shared with us. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.